The First Shepherd Baptist Church stood tall in the middle of Greenwood, Mississippi, a towering white building with a golden cross that glimmered under the southern sun. Every Sunday morning, the streets overflowed with voices, black men and women in their Sunday best, heads held high despite the heat and history that pressed down on them. They came to worship. They came to forgive. But forgiveness was not what they found. Pastor Raymond Cole was a man the town respected or feared. Tall, silver-haired, and always wearing his immaculate white suit. He spoke with the kind of conviction that could part a river. To outsiders, he was the face of Christian grace. Inside the church, behind those whitewashed walls, grace had conditions. The congregation, mostly black, filled the pews, heads bowed as Pastor Cole thundered from the pulpit. Brothers and sisters, the Lord made order in his creation, some to lead, some to follow. And you, my children, must learn obedience before freedom. A few gasps rippled through the pews, but no one dared move. The choir kept singing, trembling voices weaving through the heavy air. At the front sat Sister Naomi Parker, a nurse, proud and sharp-eyed. She'd been with the church for 15 years, long enough to know when the pastor's sermons turned from scripture to spite. Her late husband, a deacon, had once challenged Pastor Cole's special rules, the separate communion cups, the different seating sections for order. He died not long after. Heart attack, they said. Naomi never believed that. One Sunday, things changed. A letter arrived from the National Christian Conference in Atlanta. They'd chosen Greenwood's First Shepherd to host the annual Revival Week, a televised event bringing pastors and worshipers from across the South. For the first time, the small town would be seen by the nation. Pastor Cole saw opportunity. Naomi saw danger. He called a meeting of the church board, but only the white members. Black deacons, ushers, and choir leaders were told it was above their pay grade. The new choir robes, the decorations, even the seating plan, all arranged to ensure the cameras saw what Cole wanted, a perfect white church with a token few smiling black faces. The next Sunday, he made it official. For the revival, he said from the pulpit, voice booming, we shall represent unity. But unity must have structure. Our darker brothers and sisters will serve as ushers and kitchen helpers. The choir will remain as it is, our white members leading in front, with the others supporting from behind. A cold silence fell. Naomi stood. For the first time in years, someone stood. Pastor Cole, she said, her voice steady. The Lord said, there is neither Jew nor Greek, slave nor free. You teach obedience, but where is your love? Gasps. The room went still. Cole's blue eyes narrowed. Sister Parker, he said, smiling coldly, if you don't like the house of the Lord, no one's forcing you to stay. This ain't the Lord's house anymore, she whispered. It's yours. That night, the church's doors were locked. A sign went up, service suspended, until Revival Week. Rumors spread that Naomi had been excommunicated, that the pastor was preparing to turn the black members out entirely after the cameras left. Still, they waited. They prayed. When Revival Week came, cars rolled into Greenwood from every corner of the South. Reporters, church choirs, preachers, and TV cameras. The white part of town gleamed like a painting. The black neighborhoods stayed in the shadows, unseen. But Naomi had a plan. She and the black congregation, about 50 souls, refused to stay home. They gathered outside the church gates in their Sunday clothes, holding him books, singing, "We shall overcome." The sound rose, trembling but powerful. Inside, Pastor Cole panicked. The cameras were already rolling. He tried to shut the doors, but one of his ushers, a young white boy named Luke, who had grown up watching Naomi tend to the sick and feed the poor, left the latch open. The cameras caught it all. The hymns, the crowd outside, and then Naomi stepping forward. She walked up the church steps, Bible in hand, and turned to the cameras. We've been called sheep, servants, and shadows, she said, her voice clear as the church bell. But today, the world will see that the Lord's house is big enough for all his children. The choir began to sing. And just as the final note faded, a figure appeared in the back doorway, a man in a dusty white suit. Pastor Cole, smiling, but something in his eyes was different. He looked at Naomi and whispered only one word before turning to leave. Forgive. The door closed, and no one ever saw him again. Weeks later, during renovation of the church, workers found a hidden safe under the pulpit, filled with letters, confessions, and photographs that told the real story of Greenwood's church and how far the darkness had spread. Naomi opened one envelope addressed to her. Inside was a note in Pastor Cole's handwriting. You showed me God, not the one I preached, but the one I feared. Don't stop singing. The night after they found the safe, the air around First Shepherd Baptist was heavy with whispers. The congregation stayed long after dark, some praying, some crying, some simply staring at the open hole beneath the pulpit, the place where their pastor had stood for years, preaching love but sowing hate. Naomi Parker sat in the front pew, the note from Pastor Cole still trembling in her hands. You showed me God, not the one I preached, but the one I feared. Don't stop singing. Her eyes moved to the pile of envelopes the workers had stacked on the communion table, dozens of them, each marked with a name. Some were sealed with wax, others yellowed with time. On the top lay a small black Bible, its spine cracked, pages filled with scribbles. One envelope caught her eye, written in a neat, deliberate hand. To Sister Naomi Parker, should truth ever matter. She waited until the others left. The church was silent except for the creak of old wood and the distant rumble of thunder outside. She sat under the dim light of a single lamp and opened the letter. Naomi, you were right to question me. Your husband, Deacon Parker, did not die from a heart attack. He was silenced. And though my hands did not do it, my silence did. Forgive me, if you can. R.C. Her breath caught. Her fingers shook. The letter fell from her hand and landed near the black Bible. Something inside her told her to open it. She flipped through until she reached the back cover. And there, tucked inside, was a faded photograph. It showed a younger Raymond Cole standing beside a black man, smiling, both wearing church robes. And behind them, a banner, Unity Revival 1988, Jackson, Mississippi. Naomi's heart pounded. The black man was her husband. She spent the night digging through the rest of the letters. Each one told a piece of the story. Cole had not always been the man he became. He and Deacon Parker had built a small interracial congregation decades ago, preaching unity. But as their church grew, pressure came from white sponsors, wealthy donors, and local politicians. Cole had been offered something Parker refused: money and power in exchange for preserving tradition. The two men had fought. Parker had threatened to expose the deal. A week later, he was found dead. Heart failure, the report said. Cole took the pulpit, built a new church, and buried the past, literally beneath his feet. By dawn, Naomi sat motionless. Her faith felt like glass, beautiful once, but now cracked beyond repair. Yet, there was something else inside the safe, a small cassette tape labeled, "For the One Who Believes in Truth." She hesitated, then took it home. Her grandson, Malik, a computer science student, helped her play it on his old stereo. The tape crackled with static, then a man's voice came through. Not Pastor Cole's, but her husband's. If you're hearing this, it means they've taken everything. But God don't sleep. Raymond's lost, Naomi, but I don't think he's evil, just afraid. If the church ever forgets why we built it, remind them. Remind them who we were. Naomi covered her mouth, tears falling silently. Her husband had known. He'd tried to protect the church, even from beyond the grave. Sunday came again. Word spread fast. People packed into First Shepherd, waiting to hear what Naomi would say. Some feared she'd close the church. Others feared she'd burn it down. She stepped up to the pulpit, the same place where her husband once stood and where Cole had preached his poison for years. She placed the Bible, the letters, and the cassette tape beside her. "We were lied to," she began, her voice trembling but strong. "But the truth ain't come to destroy us. It's come to set us free." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. She told them everything about the letters, her husband, and the hidden past. Every word hit like thunder, but no one left. When she finished, the silence was so deep it hurt. Then someone began to sing, a low, trembling hum that grew stronger with each voice that joined. Soon, the entire church was singing Amazing Grace. The sound shook the rafters, raw and unfiltered, as if heaven itself had cracked open. Later that evening, Naomi sat alone in her husband's chair, staring out the window at the glowing cross above the church. It shimmered faintly in the stormlight. Then, headlights appeared. A white pickup truck pulled into her driveway. A man stepped out, tall, wearing a rain-soaked coat and a white hat. She froze. Even after all these years, she recognized the shape of his walk. Pastor Cole. He looked older, smaller somehow, like the rain was washing him away. "You read the letters?" he asked quietly. "All of them," she replied. "And I played the tape." He nodded. "Then you know the truth. I was a coward, Naomi. Your husband tried to save me, and I killed his memory to save myself." Lightning flashed behind him, and for a brief second, she saw his eyes glisten. "Why come back now?" she asked. "Because the truth was supposed to save me," he said, voice breaking. "But it didn't. Maybe it can save you." He turned to leave, but Naomi called out, "Raymond." He stopped. "He forgave you," she said softly, "long before you ever asked." Cole bowed his head, then walked into the rain and disappeared into the darkness. The next morning, the sheriff found Cole's truck at the edge of the river. The driver's seat was empty. Only one thing remained, a soaked envelope on the dashboard addressed to Naomi Parker. Inside was a deed to the church, and a single line written in trembling ink. "Let the Lord's house be clean again." Naomi looked up at the rising sun, her heart breaking and healing at the same time. The cross still stood white against the sky, but for the first time, it didn't feel like a symbol of division. It felt like redemption.